In this video, Kevin and I are going to talk about how we can approach planning when we have like literally physical constraints, like spatial constraints on the project site. This is an interesting topic because whether you have a postage stamp site or a zero lot line or you have 35 acres, you're going to deal with spatial constraints. So let's kick this off. What are the three different things that you always mention that we're constrained by that we have to consider? One is space. What are the other two? You said procurement and then resources, meaning like people, equipment, tools, right?
Sorry, I didn't get where you're going.
No, you're fine. I'm sorry. I totally did that. But you're always telling me space, resources, materials, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the question here was, this was actually a question from our own internal team asking what are some ways that we can approach the actual spatial constraints that we have on the project site? And you can start or I can start, either way, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, I would say the first one is to map it out. So whatever the constraints, the spatial constraints on your site are, map them out on an actual logistics plan. I want to see how much space there actually is or is not in the planning process from beginning to end. If we want to have, solutions as well, so you should map out your logistics or laydown areas. If they're off-site, you should have visual representation of all of the things that are constraining you so that everybody's on the same page with what you're talking about.
I like that. Back when I was first a field engineer, they would say I think they called it a site utilization plan, but I call it site logistics plan, right? And the site utilization plan would be something that was created, a visual map, but it would become static. They would freeze it, put it up on the wall, never got updated. One of the things that I've really noticed with us at LeanBelt is that our project that we're planning, we do a first iteration, then a second, then a third, and we're probably like on iteration 30. Like something always comes up. Well, how are we going to deal with site dust control? How are we going to deal with this? Is this the first building we should work on? Where does the trailer go? How can we get the actual paving in before some of the underground site utilities, right? So it's a huge consideration, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So let me give one. For me, the main place that I've seen this problem is a basement. Actually, if I'm thinking about it, like downtown high rises would be another one, right? But anything where you have limited space. Typically in a basement, we've got the lagging and soldier piles, or we have the shotcrete shoring systems, or whatever kind of shoring systems that were designed in the actual structure. It's funny. We don't see these a lot, but one of the coolest ones was where they have equipment dig really deep concrete walls deep into the earth in segments, and then they pour the slab on grade with an opening, and they come in and mine out underneath that first slab. Then they place another one, then they mine, place another one, mine, place another one, and the building can go up at a certain ratio to how far they go down into the foundation. It's really quite cool. Wow. They do it with parking lots. But anyway, basements, typically we're surrounded by shoring. We don't have a lot of space. Well, what you know this probably better than anyone. We were both in concrete, right? You got forklifts, you got rebar, you've got formwork, you've got cranes, you've got concrete trucks, you've got boom pumps, you've got light plants because you're placing at night. There's not a lot of space, right? Mm-hmm. And I've never seen a basement ever get placed on schedule or per the production plan where it wasn't mapped out day by day by day. Like literally day one, where's my pump? Where's my forklift? Where are the concrete trucks going to access? Where's my washout? Where's my wall rack? Where's that? Day two. Okay, that won't fit, so I have to move that out, right? So that's one of the biggest things is visualizing it, to your point. But for me, I've got to kill a tree and go print out 80 sets of the drawings and just sketch where everybody is. Back to you. What would be another recommendation for you when you have spatial constraints, spatial planning?
Yeah, using the locations on your takt plan. Ooh. You're going to have to call out in your zones where your spatial constraints are. So a visual representation in that visual schedule is really helpful to help everybody to understand, oh yeah, this is that zone that's right up against the lot line. Here's what we have to do differently for this particular zone, right? The more visual you can make those plans, the better. So, and I love your day by day, or whatever the cadence of the changes on site. So you could do pour by pour or day by day, or location by location as you work through, and just mapping that out. Oh, hey, we're going to have the man lift here today or this week until that gets completed, and then we're going to move it over here.
Yes.
So being able to show that visually, and you can actually put those items in the takt plan as well. So you can call out those logistics in the takt plan as well, which is a pretty remarkable thing to do.
So you just made me think of 3 different scenarios. By the way, I love that. The couple of the scenarios would be like different ways to represent what's happening and being able to visualize it. Like if you have a high rise, it comes down to the production rate of your cores and your exterior skin, and how quickly you can place decks, and how quickly you can get materials and other resources up through the hoist, right? So actually doing the production analysis, or actually to simulate the rate at which each of those can flow, is huge. Another thing that I thought of is where you're talking about putting them on the actual zone itself, is that really works well with exteriors, right? Is you're like, hey, this is a production area here or a zone, and this one's going to be with scaffolding. Oh, this is going to be with a swing stage, boom lift, right? And so those actual physical constraints are on the plan, and not to start them until you have that resource, right? So I love that. As you're saying, which zone goes first? Well, I don't have the swing stage till the roof is on, right? And I don't have the boom lift past level 4, and I don't have this type of crane until such and such, right? That will help you to find out your rhythm. And so I absolutely love that. The other thing that I thought of when you were talking was that especially with high or taller buildings, there's usually always a first and a second pass, right? The first pass blowing past the elevators, past the hoist, past the leave outs, past the storm drain chase, right? And then go up through the building, and then the second pass is going to pick up that elevator front, the hoist leave out. And so physically mapping out constraints that you're always going to have to deal with was really, really huge. I like that. So these are just some different ways to approach it, but your main advice is to make it visual. What advice would you give our internal team and anybody approaching this, in addition to the visualize it? Like, any closing advice, any final words? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I would say put your mind in the place of really trying to build it in your head, build it on paper. Put your mind in the position of the people who are actually constructing the items. So maybe it is possible, maybe it's not, but if we don't start thinking that way, we will for sure set the teams up for failure when they get out there.
I agree.
So really connecting with the foreman early on, I think is another one of the best ways to do that, where you may not know. So connecting with them, really understanding what their constraints are, because they know the back of their hand what their constraints really are. So
visualize it, but visualize it together, whether it's a 2D map, printouts, 3D. Oh my God! I just remembered we're in the same room where we do boot camp. Styrofoam. Yep. Popsicle sticks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Here's one that I thought of the other day, which would be super cool. Maybe we'll do at Lean Built. If we do a drone, run a drone way up in the air every day, every week, every whatever, and take a picture, and then show that picture on a TV screen.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you have this revolving logistics map, and you could even print. If you did it the same every time, you could print something on clear plastic that lays over the top of it that shows the outlines of all of the logistics pieces that you have.
I like that, because even in its simplest form, you could take the background on your logistics plan in Bluebeam, hit delete, and insert a new background with the exact same ratio. And you could actually, like they do with GPS, have targets and those targets on the site just align to your nodes on your actual Bluebeam print. We're going to do that.
Yeah.
That's a done deal right there.
Yeah.
So that'll take care of most of your walk right then and there.
Yeah, everything for exteriors for sure, and or civil exteriors, everything happened on the outside of the building.
In the roof.
But it just makes your logistics plan live. Like it just makes it, or lagging by a day only, where it's like you actually can see that pile of whatever it is, and you can actually see where the crane is set up, and you can see all of that information.
That's awesome.
All live.
That's awesome. Okay, I hope everybody's enjoyed this video for how to approach planning from a visual standpoint when we're talking about spatial constraints. On we go.